77 WABC and Bergen Newbridge Medical Center honor the life of legendary broadcaster and our friend, Ernie Anastas.
Hi, it's Ernie Anastas. You know, your thoughts can affect how you feel. Bergen Newbridge Medical Center is the largest hospital in New Jersey, providing comprehensive, equitable, compassionate, and high-quality emergency inpatient and outpatient medical care, plus mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. The Bergen Newbridge team can address your total health needs in one convenient location. Call 201-225-7130 for an appointment or newbridgehealth.org.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi! Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Breaking news, WABC.
And this is interesting, of course, after the big recent elections that took place there, which were not good for Keir Starmer's party. Now, the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, who's been like a Neville Chamberlain when it comes to Iran, he is trying to put down a revolt that could end up bringing in a fifth leader there in 7 years. So we'll keep you posted on that, John. That is an interesting one.
Since the king was here with President Trump, I think it riled up the troops, and they said, hey, this prime minister we have is for the birds.
Right, because even, John, you bring up a good point, because when the king was here, he was really, really articulate and showed stalwart support for, the United States and the eradication of nuclear weapons. So you got to give him credit for that.
Now, we have General Keane on. Let's go to General Keane.
Yes, we do. We have the great General Jack Keane, and of course, everybody, he is a retired four-star general. He's also the chairman of the Institute of the Study of War, and he's also a Fox News senior strategic analyst. General Keane, where is all this headed now? Of course, President Trump on his way right now to China. It's a long trip. We were looking, it's like a 16 hours.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Is it going to be quicker in Air Force One? What do you think, John?
No, not quicker, no.
All right, so a 16 hour trip.
But definitely comfortable.
Yeah, definitely comfortable, right. Definitely comfortable. So what do you think is going to happen with China, with Iran, General Keane? What are your thoughts?
Well, certainly, initially, the objectives in going to China were largely economic. Certainly dealing with the trade imbalance that we've had for years with China, and also discussions around tariffs and technology transfer. We want them to buy more from the United States than what they've been buying. And, we made a deal with them before, and they sort of reneged on half of it in the first administration, the first Trump administration. So I know the president likely is going to be much firmer on this. And the things that want him to buy is soybeans and Boeing aircraft and the like. I think he's taking somewhere in the neighborhood of about 6 to 8 CEOs with him in terms of doing business with China. But clearly, hanging over the talks, which was not in the planning stage when these talks were initially put together, is Iran, as you appropriately stated. And that is a reality here. And for our audience to understand, China buys 90% of Iran's oil, which is their major source of revenue. They buy it at discounted prices. And that means that China has been financing Iran's behavior for years. And particularly given the fact that the sanctions have been imposed on them. And China has been a way of getting around those sanctions. So all of the rockets and missiles that you've seen the Houthis use, that you've seen Hamas use to fire at Israel, that you see Hezbollah, tens of thousands of them, many thousands just recently, all of that is financed by Iran. That's the major source.
It goes beyond that.
China.
And I want all our listeners to know, under President Trump 45, we allowed Iran only to produce 300,000 barrels a day. Under President Biden 46, not only did he bring the price of crude oil up to 100, he allowed Iran to produce 3 million barrels a day. So we made them, how do we say it, zillionaires again?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt what China's complicity is. So what does China really want here? For sure, they want a negotiated settlement. Why is that? Because the regime will survive and there will be sanction relief, unfrozen assets, frozen assets in the neighborhood of about $100 billion. Not all of that would go at once if a deal was made, but it would be condition based. And they want reparations. Now, the president hasn't agreed to any of that, but that's what the Iranians want, and for sure that's what China wants. Why? Because the regime not only survives, but they begin to recover. And that's what China wants. This is their major foothold in the Middle East, and they get about 35 to 40% of their oil still from the Middle East. Only 10% comes from that purchase of Iranian oil. So they are very dependent on the stability in the Middle East, but they want Iran to maintain the influence they have in the Middle East going forward. So they don't want President Trump returning to full combat operations, which he's inclined to do now, given the deal has been essentially blown up. And I'm sure President Xi is going to probably try his best to talk him down from that. But listen, China and the United States, this is the most important bilateral relationship that's been established since the end of the Cold War, when the United States was in a similar relationship with the Soviet Union. And both of these leaders recognize the significance of it. Obviously, we're both superpowers. We've been a military and economic superpower post-World War II. China is an emerging power. And we're clashing because why? Because President Xi has stated time and again he wants to dominate and control the Indo-Pacific region, and he wants to replace the United States as the world's global leader. This is not fiction. This is something
you're right.
He is moving in that direction.
Now, isn't the other part of this is let's have peace until maybe the Democrats get in, and then we can do whatever we want again? I mean, I don't think there's any common sense Democrats left in the Democratic Party that I have respect for.
Well, where President Xi is certainly, he understands, I think, watching President Trump in the first term. And people think there's a difference in first term, second term. That's nonsense. When President Trump looked at the world that he had to deal with in the first term, he dealt with. He finished ISIS, used military force to do it. Assad uses chemical weapons. Obama, having a red line, ignored and did nothing. Trump stopped it because he knew that could be dangerous. If you tolerate the use of WMD, other nations will do it. So he stops bad things from happening and was willing to use force. He took down al-Baghdadi and also Qasem Soleimani, which was quite significant. 4 years go by, and Biden's foreign policy is in the tank. Russia conducts an invasion in Europe, first one of any consequence since World War II. Iran and their proxies start a war in the Middle East. Trump comes into power. The Western Hemisphere is completely out of control, where cartels and fentanyl and the rest of it and open borders. And he would rather the world not be like that, but it is. It's the world he has to deal with. And he went out there aggressively to deal with all of these three major areas. So Xi has seen this, and he knows what he's dealing with here. I think President Trump, despite the political opposition out there and what they're saying, goes into these discussions with the wind at his back, given he's taken Venezuela away from China as being their number one foothold in the Western Hemisphere by capturing Maduro and now bending that regime to our will.
Yep.
And he's pushed back on Iran quite significantly here. Nothing is going to be the same for Iran going forward. And he understands this. You're absolutely right, John. President Xi is not going to go to conflict operations when President Trump is in office as the President of the United States. Not happening.
Absolutely correct on that. Well, General Keane, thank you for coming on this Tuesday night, and we have a long week ahead of us.
Yeah, we sure do.
Yeah.
An interesting week and hopefully a good week for the world.
Absolutely. Jack, thank you. Thank you, General. We love you. Thank you.
Yeah, great talking to you, Rita. Great talking to you, John. Take care.
The following is a paid issue advertisement.
If the vote count is accurate, then how come the number of voters is different? And if it's not accurate, then why was it certified? We are suing Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections for a conspiracy against fundamental rights. This is not about who won. It's not about what party. It's about the fact that they don't care about your rights.
Paid for by RealAmerica.vote, a DBA of New York Citizens Audit Civic Fund, Incorporated.
Go to realamerica.vote.